close it. Then mute it.
Yes, that women are going through in our world today, and for us to look for a way to work around this and ensure that women have equality in the world that we live today. As the world celebrates the 2022 International Women's Day, Enterprise CEO, an enterprise media company that is committed to projection of ideas and changes that enable enterprise chief executive officers and business owners achieve new business and career possibility, hosts Enterprise CEO's International Women's Day Conference. Now, Enterprise CEO's International Women's Day Conference is a one-day invigorating event that celebrates women's commitment to local, national, and global development and delivers exciting discussions, stimulate conversations and insightful debates for the total concept of women's growth and development. Now, the conference will launch new initiatives and action, celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness and highlight gender parity gains and confront continuing challenges of pay equity, the effects of the pandemic, bringing more women into the C-suite and on board. Now, culture in tech and venture capital, new opportunities for women in frontline positions, and more. The conference consists of two panelist sessions that seek to address the topical gender issues, driving changes and possibilities, and particularly lifting up the next generation of women in changing world. The first panelist session will channel towards raising awareness of bias discrimination towards women that still exist in all walks of life, with the second panelist session focusing on elevating and advancing gender parity in workplace and celebrating women forging innovation in a changing world. All right, we'll just take a short break for about 2-3 minutes and be right back and fully progress into the conference of the day. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate your participation today. All right, it's recording now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm excited to be here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have some gentlemen behind the scenes here. I'm excited to be here to celebrate Women's Month. Women's commitment to local, national, and global development at home, and development in the society at large. I want to thank the organizers of this event, EnterpriseCEO, who are mostly men, for putting this together. EnterpriseCEO has been a major supporter of career women and women in business, providing a platform to their stories and celebrate their work. This year's theme of Women's Month is Break the Bias, about removing judgment, prejudice, discrimination, stereotypes of all kinds that affect women. In cases where women have access, they still contend with parity, equality, and equity issues. These are hindrances that hold women back, hold families back, and hold society back. You can't discriminate against or put barriers in front of half of the population and expect a holistic growth of any kind. In sub-Saharan Africa, we have more women that are stay-at-home moms with working husbands. Statistics show that women engage in 4.1 hours of unpaid work every day, as opposed to 1.5 hours of work for men. They are primarily seen as caregivers, influencing 85% of domestic decisions, including child support. The average stay-at-home mom is not financially capable of supporting herself and growing child and has to rely on working husband for financial support. To reduce the risk of gender inequality, domestic violence and abuse, financial independence and inclusive economic growth initiatives through education, career development, and entrepreneurship needs to be encouraged for every woman and her child's well-being. In a recent study by the UN, was found reports of violence against women, and particularly domestic violence. They have increased in several countries as security, health, and financial worries create tensions and strains accentuated by the cramped and confined living conditions of the COVID lockdown. The policies that will drive lasting change in our economy needs to be driven by politicians, but women representation in political space is also not encouraging. In the last 25 years of democracy in Nigeria, we have never had up to 9% of any of the assemblies. Never had a governor, a vice president, or a president. Recently, 5 gender bills were thrown out because there wasn't enough representation to vote them in. The next general election in Nigeria is here. How many women are going for elective positions? Are the men not supporting us, or is it the women that are not just volunteering themselves for elective positions? Our speakers today are seasoned career women, business owners from diverse sectors and disciplines, who will share with us their views about our theme, Break the Bias. Their achievement, despite all challenges I have addressed above, is worth listening to. The battle is daily. The war seems endless. What are the mental shifts that need to happen for our country and our world to break the bias? This war has been on for so long. It is sad that we are yet to put this behind us. The conference, as earlier said, consists of 2 panel sessions that seek to address the topical gender issues, driving changes and possibilities, and particularly lifting up the next generation of women in a changing world. The first panel session will channel towards awareness of bias, discrimination towards women that still exist in all walks of life, with the second panel session focusing on elevating and advancing gender parity in the workplace and celebrating women forging innovation in a changing world. No doubt, EnterpriseCEO International Women's Conference will be delivering top-notch and exciting discussions, stimulating conversations, and insightful debate for the total concept of women's growth and development. Our attendees are not left out. The chat room is for distribution and also, for contribution and also networking. We want you to introduce yourself and your business in as few words that you can. Many here might need your service. You can drop your IG handle as well, but don't hog the room so others can benefit. 1 or 2 sentences should be okay. Remember, if this was the physical event, we would have been exchanging our business cards, admiring each other's clothes and handbag. We also want you to contribute to each conversation the panelists are having as we go along. Type your questions in the chat room so that we can answer as many as possible. So let's make the best use of this platform. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to an exciting time.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mrs. Saudat Salami. That was a warm and of course a welcoming speech from her. We appreciate you for that warm reception. It really feels as if we are in the physical. Like you said, if we were supposed to be in the physical, we'll be exchanging contacts, meeting people. And of course, I look forward to meeting you in person today. But the whole thing changed and we still move on. We still find a way around it to sort and of course celebrate the Women's International Day. And we appreciate your speech. Now, the next person I would be calling up right now, I'll be taking up our profile before she also come up with our keynote address is Dr. Mrs. Ibilola Amo. Now, Dr. Ibilola Amo is a principal consultant of Lonadak Global Service. Lonadak is a multi-award-winning woman-owned ISO 901 2015 engineering, technology, and information management company. Lonadak aligns people, technology, engineering solutions, and service to create the value for the society. The partner technology proprietors to deliver exceptional in-person, virtual, and remote services. And it also demonstrates domicile and democratized technology for exceptional performance in STEM-focused industries. Now, there are human capital development initiatives and continuing professional development activities empower locals to deliver world-class service. Ibilola is a WEC Connect 2021 Rise to the Challenge Energy Sector Awardee, a 2020 C3E International Energy Women of Distinction Awardee, Forbes Rising Star 2019, Vital Voices VV100 Fellow, an International Women Entrepreneurial Challenge Awardee, and a 2016 Energy Institute Champion. She's a VV Grow, VV100, GAP 2017 Fellow, and We Connect International Certified Member. Dr. Ibilola pays it forward for national development and socio-economic transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a warm round of applause, though we can see it, but then we can hear it. Please welcome Dr. Ibilola Amo to the conference. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning,
good morning,
good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this event. I really appreciate what the Enterprise CEO is doing. And I'm quite grateful to my sister, Saudat Salami, who's invited me to this event. So before I start sharing my slides, and I hope I can share my slides, I'd just like us to understand that the theme for this year's International Women's Day and Month is Break the Bias. And I really would like each and every one of us to humbly admit that most of us have biases, and each and every one of us would even have an unconscious bias. And these unconscious biases are sometimes to the detriment of how we go about our daily activities. So whilst everybody is talking about break the bias and we're looking as females towards biases of the other gender, I want us to look inwards and really admit that we do have our own biases. And I remember speaking to some people and telling them that I've never had a female driver, and I've never gone for a medical checkup where a male doctor has actually asked me to strip and I felt comfortable. So, I mean, this just goes to tell us that we're more comfortable with male drivers and more comfortable with female nurses. So we do all have our unconscious biases. So I think that's something we need to think about. So while I share my screen, the host has disabled participants from screen sharing. I hope I can share my screen, or I'll just talk through my slides. Another thing I want to say is, I mean, from the perspective of a country like Nigeria, pre-colonial years, we had leaders like Queen Amina. We had Queen Amina from the north of Nigeria, Queen Idia from the Edo Kingdom, and we had Moremi from the southwestern region. So we really had female leaders who commanded respect from the community and mobilized men. So I really think we need to look inwards and say, where did we miss it? And how did we find ourselves at a point where we're now trying to renegotiate, I still can't share my screens, renegotiate our positions in leadership, especially in our areas of core competence. So I honestly believe that God has divinely wired each and every one of us with potential, talent, and passion. And if we really look inwards and work with God to attain our full potential, we shouldn't be in a position struggling to break any biases, because we definitely will be excelling and we would command the type of respect and have the right positions of leadership. Also, I mean, we have names like Deborah, Queen Esther, Dorcas, who have commanded a lot of respect. And these are people, I mean, who...
Dr. Bilala,
yes.
I think from your own end, you can click on share the screen for your screen to be shared. You talk about being disabled to share your screen.
I have done that quite a lot of times, and it comes up with host disabled participants screen sharing. So the host will probably have to make me a host or a co-host so that I can share my screen. So that's an IT function.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass that information now.
Okay, so anyway, so this is something I would like us to look at, that there's different perspectives to breaking the bias. And before I have rights to share this screen, I'll just share my own experience. So I started off as a young girl who preferred to be outdoors, playing with the boys and experimenting, solving problems, rather than staying indoors in the kitchen or tidying up the house. And my mom thought I was pretty odd and always kept asking why I wasn't indoors. But my late father encouraged me to do practically what I liked, and adventure. As long as I did some home chores, he allowed me to spend some time outside, climbing trees, riding bicycles, catching grasshoppers, butterflies, and then planting beans, corn, all kinds of things. So I was just one of the mom had, but my late father didn't have a bias of a girl should be indoors cooking and cleaning. My late father had the lens of allow this young girl discover who she really is and become who she wants to be. So I think even as parents, we need to be careful what we tell our girls and our boys to do. I mean, I know some parents would probably buy dolls for their daughters and buy bicycles for their sons, or sewing machines for their daughters, and maybe machine guns for their sons. So these are some biases that we already have. So in our shopping, even in our preparation for our children, I know that girls used to have pink outfits and boys used to have blue outfits. So there's some biases we have that I think we really, really need to look inwards. So we need to continuously strive to break the unconscious biases we have. So let me just move through the presentation without the presentation anyway. So I'm a civil and structural engineer. I went through the bias of being practically the only female student in the maths class or the physics class, or the chemistry class or the information technology class when I moved to the United Kingdom. And I kind of was comfortable. I didn't really feel any kingdom perspective, my color, and the fact that people didn't really think an African girl child should even be in the maths. My maths teacher tried to convince me that I was going to end up being maybe a housewife or something in Nigeria. So he didn't really think when I was having a problem, a challenge, moving from traditional maths, which I learned in Nigeria, to modern maths, which was being taught during my A-levels in England. My maths teacher was very frustrated and was quite negative about me struggling. But the good news is I was one of the top 5 math students in Nigeria. So I had that confidence that if I worked hard at it, I'll be able to make a point. At the end of the day, I got an A in my maths for my A-levels. And recently I've been able to convince, by getting a first class in civil and structural engineering and a doctorate in computer-aided design and drafting, I think my maths teacher now would have been convinced that he wasn't wasting his time teaching me math. So I think one thing is that we shouldn't give up. We should be very focused in our personality. We should understand what we want to achieve in life. We should set high targets and goals for ourselves. We should set a high bar for ourselves, and we should remain undistracted from all the negatives that are thrown at us. I would say for a female who feels discriminated against, please gravitate towards positive people. You would always have your antenna up, and you should be able to discern who are the negative people in your life and who are the positive people in your life. So just try and put the negative people at arm's length and avoid them like the bubonic plague, and kind of focus on the positive people in your life who would stretch you, encourage you, and help you achieve and attain your full potential. So if I'd listened to my mom who says I shouldn't go out and I shouldn't play, rather than my dad, of course, I probably wouldn't be an engineer today. So we should make the right choices. Know who you are listening to and focus on the voices you hear. Okay, now I can share my screen.
Yes,
so
you can.
I'll just try and do that now. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, this is all about, so you can see for me as a civil and structural engineer who has run a business for over 30 years in the oil and gas industry, in engineering technology and information management. These are photographs of myself either on site with a hard hat, or working on my computer, or using virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, or extended reality, or walking through a facility as a site engineer. So these are not normal female biases. These are biases that I have enjoyed because of what I studied. So one thing I would like to say for the girl child out there, females, is educate yourself, enlighten yourself, empower yourself, engage yourself, and aspire to become an entrepreneur so that you are able to achieve your full potential. Continuous learning and development and continuous professional development is so important. I've never had to struggle with a male colleague or a male counterpart because for starters, I decided to go as far as I could in my education. So I got a PhD when I was age 23. So I didn't really have to struggle with my male counterparts. When I was training to become a chartered engineer in the UK, I had biases. I remember being on site and working with the site supervisors, and it was Batley Beck flood alleviation scheme in West Yorkshire, up north. And the biases there, they just assumed I was a secretary. They didn't know I was the assistant resident engineer. So I'll be walking out of the office and people who have come to sell their products and services will meet me where the secretary was going for lunch or something. And when they get to the porter cabin and they ask for the resident engineer, they'll tell them she just left for lunch. And then I'll come back and find them sitting down waiting for me, and they'll be so shocked. Their faces will go pink because they never expected to have a female resident engineer approving their proposals. And two, they just assumed the Black lady going out was a secretary. So I've suffered quite a lot of biases. But I think if you remain very humble and focused, it's just going to be like water on the back of a duck and you just don't even notice these things anymore. Don't bother to focus on these things. Don't be agitated. Just continue to aspire for the best you can be. And hopefully with time, people will come to recognize what you're doing. So because it's International Women's Day activity, which is a United Nations Day, I'd look at, I'm not going to talk too much about this. This is what we do at Lonadec Global Services. I've been very privileged as a female entrepreneur based on some networks I'm a member of, which is Vital Voices, We Connect, International Women Entrepreneurial Challenge, WIMBIS. Also, I've benefited from the Sherry Blair Foundation, as well as Women in Energy Network and the Commonwealth Business Network. On the virtue of those networks, I've been able to get upskilled on supplier development programs that are gender and diversity focused, like the Procter & Gamble, Logitech, Bank of America, Johnson & Johnson, Mercer, IBM, Olam. To update and upgrade myself. So I went to Stanford Seed Transformation Program, Harvard Business School Executive Management Programs, Manchester Business School. So I'll just say continuous learning and development and remaining in a teachable state with humility to gain knowledge on a daily basis is so important to break the bias. So from a sustainable development goal perspective, I can honestly tell you that in the next 9 years before 2030, between $3.3 to $4.5 trillion will be spent on these goals. So breaking the bias, I think for any female, you need to identify which of these goals resonate with you as a person, and then go on short courses, find mentors, coaches in these areas, engage with them to try and find out your niche, where you can excel, what you're naturally wired to excel in, and key into these sustainable development goals. They cover the environment, society, and economy, so you need to really look at how you can add value in those areas. Then for me as a STEMpreneur, and I know there are techpreneurs and entrepreneurs as well, look at how you can add value in, I'm sure my sister is on the scientific excellence side, because organic foods, processing of herbs, extraction of value from minerals, trees, cash crops, renewable energy, materials, metallurgy, health and pharmaceuticals. This is an area where science is not for any particular brain. So whether you're a female or a male, your scientific know-how is not limited. So don't let anybody discriminate against you as a scientist. Science does not know gender. Technology does not know gender instead as well. So in terms of digitization, blockchain, artificial intelligence, digital analysis, cloud computing, robotics, 5G, integration of systems, fintech, agri-tech, digital twins, it's not gender specific. In terms of engineering, mechatronics, control systems, instrumentation, pipelines, wind farms, biomass construction, power stations, refineries, rail, aircraft equipment, there are roles and responsibilities and job descriptions there that are not gender specific. So we really, really need to find which gender biases are there and work around where we have an affinity or we have competencies, capability, and capacity to override those gender biases. And as a mathematician, not gender specific either, define gravity is not gender specific, space travel, geology, 3D, 4D seismic, data interpretation, ROIs, maths of profitability and relativity is not gender specific. And then for a country like Nigeria, where we produce crude oil, but we don't even convert it into products, I want us to begin to look at manufacturing as a possibility, because from crude oil, you can get petrochemicals. Petrochemicals, I know in Nigeria, we produce plastics and nylons and stuff like that. Those are the very, very basic crude products that we get from refined products, refined crude. They're very valuable products, such as these high-end materials that can be created from crude oil. So whilst crude oil is being exported, we need to begin to look at how can we convert these things into premium goods for export. In terms of technology, these are huge areas of deploying 3D, engineering, technology, and information management solutions, which empower women. So working from home, working from anywhere, virtual and remote work is quite possible as a female. So these are technological areas where gender specificity is not an issue. And then I'd just like to say that as a woman-owned business, I've aligned myself with women-specific networks, societies, associations, and institutions, and I've enjoyed the girls support women support women in relationships. And I think we need to find groups of women who can support us, stretch us, encourage us, and work with us to achieve our full potential. And we should continue learning, networking, and getting to know each other. So I'm just going to run down with, in conclusion, from girls in STEM to engineering, energy, and entrepreneurship, opportunities exist in the energy, engineering, technology, and information management area. There's a lot of empowerment going on for females, for virtual and remote work. Providing sustainability and ESG focused solutions is not limited to any gender. Women should explore and exploit these opportunities. Knowledge sharing in national, regional, and international networks is extremely useful for us females. Global growth, innovation, and excellence is an area we need to look at, and global opportunities exist for STEM, tech, entrepreneurs. The future. So let's go out there, look at how can we deploy STEM and tech in education, STEM tech focused manufacturing industries, oil and gas, energy, renewables, commerce and manufacturing, infrastructure, agro-allied, and most especially post-COVID, medical and pharmaceuticals. I would like to begin to round up now, rather than going into the depth of this slide, to just encourage everybody on this call that STEM tech entrepreneurship is not limited to any gender. We should be bold, brave, and innovative, adventurous. Look for the right networks that would stretch us, encourage us, collaborate, cooperate, and coordinate our resources with others, partner, form strategic alliances so that we can do more and achieve more. So these are some of the programs we run at Lonadec. We're very happy to engage with people here. We're very passionate about diversity and inclusion in STEM and tech. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And I hope you have been encouraged that diversity is a mindset, and it's something that we can each overcome. Our unconscious and conscious biases exist. We must work at it to be very successful. So let's break the bias. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibilola Amo. It's really, really detailed, and of course, it's informative and mind-opening, the things you've gone through, your educational background, all that you've gone through. It's quite challenging for some of us who think, okay, no, the world is quite competitive, the sectors are quite competitive, we can't do so much. I think this is just an encouragement that we need to go all out there and do what we have to do, despite the bias, despite the inequality that's going on all around us. We can actually forge out and think about you, think about this name at each time, and go ahead and do what we can do, and of course be at the top of our careers, because this world, definitely there would be an equality at one point or the other. That's how we're moving, and of course we're having this kind of seminar at a point like this. So I really appreciate your keynote speech, Dr. Ibilola. Thank you so much. And I've been able to just pick out some things from what you said. You said we should really want us to look inward for us to actually check out our own personal bias, starting off with not having a female driver, not having a male nurse, not being comfortable with male nurses. But really, you can at least see an individual have a female driver. It's quite rare in our society. And of course, if a female try to apply for such position, you'll be looked at twice like, what is wrong with you? Can't you just go ahead and get something else?
I must say that sometimes the females may not even have a problem, but the wives of the men who want to employ a female driver.
Yes, they definitely will have an issue to that. But we can actually break that bias when you deliver professionalism in your sector, in that driving angle. Definitely, they will know what a man can do. I think a woman can do it much better. And I'll also pick up the fact that continuous learning and development will help us break the bias. If you're not starting in our quest for knowledge, that would definitely help us break the bias. You are eager, you're humble, you're open to learning. Definitely with this process, we would break the bias. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibilola. And my final one, you said you should find a niche and find where to develop and find development yourself, find your niche where you're comfortable with what you can do with ease, and of course, break that bias in that aspect. I think we can say that this conference is power-packed just by the keynote speech from Dr. Ibilola. We know there is more to come from our panelist session. When that starts, we're going to be able to go forward, make that difference, break that bias, and of course, be a voice wherever we are as the female gender. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Ibilola, for this keynote address. Thank you so much. Now, I would be handing us over to our to our discussant for the first female panel session, and that will be handled by Wemimo Adewuni. I don't know if Wemimo is here and she's ready. She's meant to moderate.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great to hear your voice. You will be moderating the first session, and I'm seeing you here, and I'm so excited to see you.
Thank you, Diane. Good to be here too. Great job you've done opening up the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So
Welcome, Wemimo.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, madam. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to meet you here again. After breaking my table last week.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the first panel session on the conference. As you know, the whole month of March, we're having conversations around breaking the bias on issues that affect women in Nigeria. In this panel session, we're talking about raising awareness of bias, discrimination towards women that still exist in all walks of life. So all the various forms of biases and discrimination against women is what we're talking about for the next 45 minutes. My name is Wemimo Adewuni. I'm a host of Table Talk, a female gendered show on 99.3 Nigeria Info. And my job 1 hour every week is to ensure that we tackle stereotypes that limit women, go into the recesses of the minds of the people and help them bring those hard conversations out. Why do you do this against women? That's way when people are confronted with their biases, they tend to then understand that what they're doing is harmful to women. So for the next hour, I have my panelists who'll be having this conversation with me here. And if you have any questions for us while this panel is on, please feel free to make use of the chat box. Leave us your questions or comments. We would love to read and hear from you. Also, towards the end, we might have time to take a few questions. So if you have questions, please also just kindly raise your hand and then we'll permit you to speak. So I'll quickly introduce my panelists this morning. I have 3 of them joining me on this panel. And the very first is Clara Ugbo, who is an emotional intelligence certified professional and also an EQ certified life coach. She has helped people to come up with clear vision through thought-provoking processes that helps them translate their vision into reality. She holds a BSc in psychology and diploma social work from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and also an MSc work psychology from the University of East London in UK. She also has a certificate of competence in occupation testing from the British Psychological Society. With 15 years plus post-NYC work experience as UK, Nigeria trained psychologist, I think she's just perfect for this conversation. Clara Ugbo, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Wemimo. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you.
Good morning. Same here. My next panelist is Adeola Balogun, and she is a founder and chief operations officer at a Lim Foods production company. She's a chartered accountant with a passion for driving innovation, change, and post-harvest loss reduction in the agri-food processing value chain across Africa. She has about 20 years experience working in various capacities in 3 leading financial institutions in Nigeria, in Unilever as treasurer and management accountant, in Cadbury as head commercial finance and head of supply chain finance. Her mission simply is to help reduce post-harvest losses in Nigeria with the right stakeholders. Welcome to the conversation, Adeola Balogun.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. My next panelist is Daphne Akatuba. She's a marketing professional with proven ability to develop and execute marketing strategies, as well as harnessing partner relationships that successfully. She's a go-getter, hands-on team player, and creative solutions provider. Welcome to the show, Daphne.
Hi, thank you very much, Remo.
Good to have you here. So I'll go in that order. We can possibly also have Dr. Bilola join us on the panel as we go ahead with the conversation today. I might also bring in Sauda Salami someplace in this discussion. Now, let's start off by describing what this gender bias we're talking about is. I mean, because I do this on radio regularly, I'm easily tagged. In fact, my callers are quick to call me Iron Lady, a tag I've graciously accepted because I don't let people get away with, discriminatory comments against women. So how do we describe this? The women are just doing this. There is no bias. Nobody is holding you back. I'll start with you, Daphne. How do you describe in your space, in your workspace and sector, the various biases and discrimination that women face? If Daphne's ready.
Okay, Heather, how are you?
I'm well.
So interesting. I think that majorly the biases would come from, people just believing that women. First of all, there's a cultural expectation that women should be soft-spoken, women should be nice. I actually hate that word. There's a thought that women. I'm so sorry. Can you see my camera, my video?
No, I can't.
Why that just went off, but let me try again. Okay, so I don't know why it's gone off, but hopefully it would come back. People expect that women should be nice, women should be soft-spoken, women should be understanding. So it's almost a thing of expecting that the woman in the workforce should be the woman to be your mother or your younger sister or your wife. So very enduring, accommodating. And then you come into the workforce and I'm just like, look, I need to get this thing done. Are you going to do that document or not? And they're like, oh my gosh, she's such a bitch. And that's really what it is. So most times you see young women who are good at their jobs, who are, who are decisive, who are goal-oriented and not activity-oriented. I see that people also expect women to be activity-oriented, which is, oh, tell me what happened yesterday. Okay. Oh, yeah, it was such a hard day. They want women to just come and complain. And then when you're like, no, what actually happened? Tell me the results. What happened? You're like, oh my God, this woman is really horrible. But she's not. She's actually doing her work. But because of that bias of expecting women to be soft, to treat you nice, people then say that that woman is a horrible leader or a horrible person to work with. I know that that's the number one bias I faced when I joined the workforce. And I had to, learn to accept it because at some point it was going to affect me. And I remember having male leaders who were supportive. And I remember one day, I was not in the room and people had described me in a certain way. And I got into the conversation much later. And, I heard about that and it was going to break my spirit. And I remember my leader at the time telling me, no, don't let it affect you. And so what if that's what they call you? At the end of the day, you're going to achieve that. And that was, I think for me, that was a pet talk I needed to be like, okay, yes, I'm going to go and do that. So I know that that's one of the, one of the first biases that we face in the workspace. And also because of that cultural bias of where people believe that women should be nice and soft-spoken. There's also the thing of taking instruction from a woman. And so I remember as well, that was another major fight, blowout that I had in the office where I came in when I started my work at Sterling as a social media manager. And I was working with a guy who was also in a digital space. And I was telling him, okay, we need to do this. This is what we need to do. And I remember he blurted out. And, interestingly, I didn't even think he expected to blurt it out. It was more of a thing of, when the thing is like at the back of your head and you're just like, how dare you? And the guy said, the first thing he said was, what is really your job? You're even just a social media person. And I thought, and so what? So women don't talk to me like this. Women don't talk to me like this. And everybody in the office went quiet because it was, I don't think he really expected it to come out, but it had to come out. And when it came out, I actually laughed and I said, then you shouldn't be working because guess what? You're still going to answer to me. So better do what I say. And if that's a problem, just don't come to work. Really, run your own business. So for me, those are two major biases that I see where it really comes from a cultural place, a place of how society has sort of nurtured us to expect and see women. And so when you come into the workforce and there's no submission as people expect it to be, then it becomes a problem.
Thank you very much, Daphne. I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's possibly first that I think every woman as your mother, as a woman you left at home, and hence you expect every woman at the boss in your office, to act accordingly. I used to get upset at first and call me action lady, actually tough woman, on radio. And then I thought, well, if that describes my stance to you, well, you're welcome. Yeah. So thank you very much for that introductory. And not even land. So most of them are leaders to the bottom of the pyramid, doing just the big work. So tell me, in your space, what practical discriminatory practices and biases against women you might have seen?
Oh, thank you very much. I've had experiences in Agric. I've also had experiences whilst working. In Agric, when you're going for facilities, the first thing they ask you for is collateral. And very few women have collateral. And so they say, that's it. Without collateral, we can't move forward. And it's coming from the big companies that supposedly are supposed to be supporting agri businesses. And then when you say, okay, do all asset debenture, they tell you, no, we can't because we can't convert such readily into cash. And so women were hit with a brick road. Currently, I'm going through some financing. We're trying to get refinancing for the business. And I tell you, I kid you not, it's been a journey. Only yesterday, myself and Saudat were still going back and forth. And each time I want to give up, she's like, no, you can't give up. You're just right at the end of it. You can't give up, And so it's not an easy thing. I guess the only thing helping me so far has been my network of women that surround me, because it's really, really tough for women. And so supporting ourselves with people that can help motivate you, give you perspective from different angles, show you that you're on, also let you know that you're on the right path, helped a lot. Whilst I was working, so I'm an accountant and I run a food processing company. And people think the first question they say is, what's your background? And when I say I'm an accountant, they're like, So how come you are in a food processing company? Why are you running an innovative food processing company? Because right now we're the only company doing freeze-dried products in Nigeria. So we take all these things, and it was a challenge for me because each time we go to these farmers markets and we see the huge quantum of waste happening, it's painful to us. And at the same time, we have companies in Nigeria, food and beverage companies in Nigeria, importing the same things. The only thing stopping us was technology. So I had this brainwave and I said, I'm going to import the machines to start this processing. And we did that in 2018 and we started. My husband thought I was mad. Everybody thought I was mad. But we spent the last 2 years proving to Nigerians like we can produce this stuff. Only recently we had a big multinational start talks with us in regards of having our fruits in their products, and hopefully that will see the light of day. So it's a lot of challenge working as a woman in agri space. Even whilst I was working, when you were talking when you first raised the question, I had 3 big points that came to mind. My first was when I was trying to join Unilever. I remember I was the only female amongst 8 men that were vying for the role. And after the interview, when I finally got into Unilever, a woman came to me and said, finally, they took you in. And she kept on asking them, where is that young lady? They must take her. Because apparently the guys at GAN got to say, they are only going to take guys. But she said, no, this woman did very well and she must be taken in. And so when I got in, I became the treasurer for Unilever at that point. The second big one was whilst I was in Cadbury, and there was this job offer that was in New Jersey. And it was exactly what I was doing in Nigeria. It was exactly I could do better than that, what the job offer. And it was a senior role, and it meant I was going to relocate to New Jersey. And I remember going to meet my boss then and said, this job offer, I would like to go for it because my boss needed to sign off. And the question she asked me was, where are your children? I said, they're in Canada. Where is your husband? I said, they're in Nigeria. She said, so how do you want to manage this whole thing? And that was the end of it. You know, but if you had been a guy, they would have told you that your wife will manage, you go, blah, 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 stuff like that, and the guy would get that job. So for women, I mean, the lesson for me is, let's encourage each other. Let's break all the biases. If a man can do it, why can't a woman do it? If we can give the men the support, why can't we give the women the same support? Pull ourselves down. Why do we pull ourselves down? Why do we always see the negatives in things? Why can't we think out of the box? Why does it have to be each time the roles happen, the roles come up, it's the men that are put in front, and the women, you always have excuses, reasons why a woman cannot go for the role. I mean, I challenge all those biases. As long as somebody else can do it, I can do it. As long as I don't have two heads, I can get there, and we'll keep doing it until we get there. Thank you. Hello, I hope you guys can hear me.
I think she's having a problem, but thank you for. Oh, you're like in the chat room says you're on fire. I'm like Jola for president. You went through a lot in building your career, and also now running your business. You're also facing different types of bias. I mean, that is a very rich experience. And for me, it's as if it doesn't end. For every time you pass, and even from Dr. Amao's delivery earlier, this thing doesn't end. It's something that we fight on a daily basis, right? Wemimo, where are you? Oh my God, tech. I can't wait to listen to Clara. Clara, you are gorgeous. You are gorgeous. I wish we are physical. I need to hug you. I need to take pictures with you. No, and ladies, we are taking pictures later. We all need to put on our videos so that we can take beautiful pictures. I want to see those that have the kind of glasses that Clara has on, and everybody's, gorgeous look today. Please, let's take beautiful pictures before the end of today. Webimo, are you here now? I saw you a minute ago. Okay, Temi, do you want to take over that so that we will not lose time?
Okay, so while we wait for Wemimo to reconnect. Hello, Wemimo, are you back? All right, so while we wait for Wemimo to reconnect with us on the conference, I think I'll just move up to Clara and tell her to also share her own experience when it comes to this issue of bias against women, especially here in Nigeria. If I can streamline it down to what we experience here in Nigeria, I think I would like you to share your experience and what you think about the whole thing.
Thank you so much, and Saudat, Adeola, you guys. So I decided, first of all, excuse me for this, that since this was no longer physical, I'm going to dress the way I wanted to come physically. So maybe that's why all of this is happening. But yes, I am just in the same attire that I wanted to wear to Radisson Blue. And thank you for the compliments. Thank you so much. So breaking the bias, what's bias? I'm going to take it slightly differently. I mean, whatever everybody has shared is so real. And that opening keynote from Dr. Amao was very, very powerful. So when Saudat was opening the speech, she said, she had asked a question that I think Ojolakwe picked: are the men not supporting us, or women not volunteering? So she was talking about politics and governance, but I'm talking about in life, in our personal lives. Are we being supported, or are we not volunteering to live our lives the way we should? Now, I have so many things to say, so if my thoughts are not coordinated, just forgive me. But as I remember them, I'll be talking about them. One striking incident that happened for me was I started working and I wanted to go see my cousin somewhere, some other location in Lagos. So I moved from where I was, entered the bus, and I didn't like the public transport system, but I had to because I wasn't driving. There was a car in the house. I was married. I had a car, but I couldn't to point B. And so I went, when I got to my cousin's office, we had our nice time. And the first thing she asked when I was leaving was, so where is your car? I said, well, you know, I can't drive. What was remaining was for her to beat me. She said, are you mad? How can you say you don't want to drive? How can you be so scared to drive? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, why are you taking it personally? I just don't feel comfortable to drive. And you know her point? She said, your mom is a lioness. You can't be any less. And that got me. Is it that I didn't know my mother? Somebody else had to tell me who my mom is. How am I not a lioness? How am I being so ajiboyish? And ladies and gentlemen, my mom is actually lioness, and she will tell you to your face. And she is someone that I should have been more like, but on that day, I realized that I've been so soft. And I'm sorry, Daphne, you said you don't like nice, but I've been so nice. I've been so kind. I've been so naive because, you know, when I realized myself, so to say, I realized there was a lot of naivety. There was a lot of this cultural thing in my face, but not realizing that it was actually serving me negatively, that I could have done better, right? So from that point, when she screamed and took over that case as though she was the mother, I felt, wow, so I can actually be a lioness. I can actually do what I want to do. It's something as simple as driving in Lagos. I have to admit that sometimes it still goes over my head. Can I really do all of this traffic thing in Lagos? But I'm consciously telling myself, look, it's driving. So on the day of the International Women's event, that's March 8th, some people in my office, we gathered, you know, the ladies, and we're talking about this. And somebody said about when a woman is driving and a man says, or she makes a mistake and the man says, woman. And I realized I have a ready response for you. If anytime you tell me is a woman, I'm doing this mistake or driving here because I'm a woman, I'm very sorry. But what I say to you, if you can hear me, is, oh, I didn't realize I need a dick to drive. Because I don't. I'm very sorry, but I don't need a dick to. The car is not meant for man. Sorry, Saudat. I know that this can make somebody throw up. But that's the truth. What is there something to drive? It's not about the masculinity. It's about the skills, the knowledge, the information that you have to prepare yourself to do what you need to do. So from that moment when my cousin made me realize that I had a lion of a mom, it began a journey of self-reflection. And maybe it has actually guided my decisions in life about what I studied and all of that, because after my first degree, I worked a bit, and it was during that work time that I made this visit to my cousin. And then by the time I was deciding to do a master's, I needed to understand the psychology of the workplace. Then I started realizing that some things I was doing in the office were a bit natural to what women would do. You know, I wasn't challenging anything. I wasn't bold enough to speak against anything. You know, not that I wasn't intelligent, but I just didn't even see it. So the perspective I'm bringing this is, how do we see ourselves? Yes, culture, environment is key to molding us. But also the positive thing about that is that the culture and environment is key to remolding us. But the difference there is that we now have to take personal responsibility to change the things that happen within our environment. The 4 key things that happen within our environment. You see things, you hear things, you experience things, and you read things. That's how you build yourself. You see things, you experience things, you hear things, and you read. That's all. So in these 4 things, if we're going to be talking about breaking the bias, those are the 4 areas we'll be looking at. What are the things we are seeing? What are we allowing our head to hear? What are we experiencing? Are we in control? Can we choose, like somebody said earlier, the people that we listen to? Can we choose them, right? So the bias for me may not necessarily be that external if we really, really decide to look inwards. There's a lot of it inside of us. I mean, somebody also was saying, between a male boss and a female boss, I'll prefer to have a male boss. And I was like this, okay, so tell me why you prefer to have a male boss. Long and short of it is, we women, to be honest, are very demanding on ourselves, which is supposed to be a good thing. But unfortunately, we misunderstand it. And then you hear things like, why are you treating me like this? I thought you're a mother. Hello, if it's a job to be done, you do it. It's not a motherhood thing. A man can let you off the hook because they don't understand a lot of things. So if a woman is pregnant and she's having issues with her pregnancy, and because of that, she's taking time off work, a male boss is more likely to say, just go. Why? Because they don't get pregnant. They don't understand. All they see is that pregnancy is an issue. But a woman who's also been pregnant before might have to ask you some more questions, might say to you, how did they do you? Can you manage? Is it this? Have you seen a doctor? In that analysis, which is a wonderful gift that women have, in that process of analysis, then they can tell you, well, it's not supposed to be a problem. You should do work to help yourself. But then the woman turns around and says, but you are a mother. How can you tell me to be coming to work? And so we prefer male bosses because of the ignorance that they have. And I'm sorry if there is any male boss here who feels that I'm attacking them. It's not a personal attack, it's reality, right? So within us, we should look inwards. And for me, that has happened and it's still happening. In fact, they asked me that day, when you get up in the morning and you're getting ready to go to work, do you feel like a woman that is coming to work? I'm like, I feel like a person who's going to work. Yeah. I don't get up thinking I'm a woman going to work. I get up thinking as a person going to work. If I go thinking I'm a woman going to work, then I'll be very sexist in the office. Like everything I do will be about my gender because that's my thought. So when I consciously tell myself, you're a person who holds a position, there's something you need to do today, it's a human being that has to do the job, not a woman or a man. So that's where I am at. And I hope that this is the message that we're going to spread, that people, which is women, should look inwards to break our own barriers. Because once we do that, the others is very easy to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dayo, for holding it for me. I went off for a few minutes so that I could see you guys. Two important things you've talked about is the driving issue. And I think actually if you drive in Lagos, you hear that a lot. Interestingly, insurance companies, when you're doing comprehensive insurance, for instance, there's a cover, for women that's cheaper because women are better drivers. Women have fewer accidents, but in a rough city where driving roughly is knowing how to drive, driving carefully is termed, being weak. In fact, if a man drives carefully, you hear male drivers tell him, why are you driving like a woman? So we still unfortunately have those stereotypes. And like you say, most jobs, it's not about your anatomy. It's your brain, it's your hands, mostly your brain, you need to do it. So, and if you have the skill to do it, then you can. Now, how do we break these biases? I'm going to start with you again. Talking about Clara, talking about the mental biases, and I think that's a very big issue, which is why last week, that was with me in the studio last week, when I began to ask questions about, okay, so when we say we want more space for women in politics and governance, for instance, the votes will not jump on your laps. You still have to come out and say, vote for me, here I am. But if you're not there to be voted for, hello, you're not going to have the seat because you won't have it simply because you showed up and you're a female. So we still have that internal bias, women giving excuses about why they can't show up. So how do we overcome these internal biases?
Thanks a lot, Memimo. And I think I started it with that conversation. It's about an inward look at what the environment has fed us with. Truth is, we've grown up in a culture that has tended us towards what we are facing, all the biases that we have. So for us to break it, we need to take a pause, just like consciously stop and think. When Dr. Amal was making her keystone, she said, sometimes we have unconscious biases. This is so real. Like, they're so unconscious and they're so like we don't know about them. So here's the message: stop, take a pause, and think about it. And we all have the gifts to do that. As long as we live and breathe, we can think. So once we are conscious, we're intentional about it, that's the first place to start, right? Because if you don't do that, when another woman is doing it, you're not likely to understand what the woman is doing. And then we begin to fight ourselves. So where everybody should stop and think, take a pause and think, in what areas do I have the biases, right? What are the biases emanating from myself? So I have 3 daughters. And to be honest, I started out with a bias for their colors. You know, when somebody was saying we buy blue for boys and buy pink for girls, I didn't do the blue pink thing. I did the yellow, green, and red because there are 3. And it was me who started it out. And they started loving the colors that I bequeathed to them. And then by the time one of the twin girls, she was about 3, and that one is very attached to her daddy. So she realized that her daddy likes blue. And she started telling me, Mommy, I like blue. To be fair, to be honest, I had a bit of blue, okay? You girl. I had it because it was in me that, why blue? And then I thought, oh, this girl loves blue. So I bought her the first gift item that was blue. She loved it. She expressed a lot of joy. And I told myself consciously, I'm going to be looking out for blue items for this girl. Now she has a blue bathrobe. She has a blue desk. She has blue this, blue that, and it has even made our house more beautiful. Yes, because it was before all the same color. So a conscious stopping of, how we move on auto. That's what we need to do. The brain is more comfortable running on auto, and that shouldn't be a bad thing. It actually does that to save us from stress. But for you to grow the brain, for your brain to actually begin to grow, you need to task it differently. So that what I'm asking is, we need to all take a pause in those normal things that we think we are doing. What is the bias in there? Ask yourself, and once you realize it, begin to consciously change it. And guys, this is going to be very uncomfortable because you're so used to things, you're so set in your ways that when you bring a disruption even to yourself, it's definitely going to be uncomfortable. So you're going to get ready to fight your own discomfort, fight your own doubts, fight your own whatever, and arm yourself with readiness to go beyond this. And I think that's where we must all start, to intentionally take a pause and look out for those
more enlightenment, more when we go to different parts of the country to source our raw materials. When we go to Malaysia, for example, for bananas, you see a lot of the women in the market. They're the ones that actually bringing this stuff into the market, but they are not economically empowered. When we went to Ile-Ife, it was the same picture. You see these women in the farmers market bringing the produce, but they're still wretched. Sorry to use that language, but that's how you see them. And it's so painful. And even these women, especially in Ile-Ife are very, very hostile. They don't do from Ile-Ife here. But when we go to this market, they will actually say to my face, what are you looking for here? In Yara, Lagos, today, negotiations have come. But when we get to Ilesha, it's a different commerce, it's a bigger market. You have people going to Zamfara, Kaduna, even Niger coming from Ilesha. But the English is still, I don't know how we can change this cycle, but it's deep-seated. When we see the quantum of, for example, I take banana, I'm passionate about banana, and I'm passionate about banana because In Nigeria, once banana goes ripe, we have little or no use for it. But we are able to turn ripe banana into